Kristen, author of The Age of the Child.
Hi, I'm Lenora. I'm the creator of The Bitchy Bookkeeper.
Hi, I'm Isabel, founder and firebrand of the Uprising Spark, and we are the three founding non-mothers of Childfree Girls. And today is our second live. We're very excited to be here with everyone who is with us in this Zoom call. And if you're watching this afterwards, welcome. Today's conversation will be about child-free gatekeeping. And I think there's just like so much to talk about regarding child-free gatekeeping. There's the use of the word child-free versus the word childless. There's people who have this like list of demands of what makes you child-free and what not. So I really want to get Kristen, you can start with telling us what you think about child-free gatekeeping.
Well, I think the gatekeeping is ridiculous. However, I don't know actually if I think it's ridiculous, because I used to have this opinion of what child-free meant. And I think I thought it should always be happily child-free, like not wanting kids because of not wanting to be a parent. But I think over the years of doing this and reading more about it, I kind of had a newfound respect for people who choose not to have children because they don't want to pass on something hereditary, or they know that there's something about them that might make them either a dangerous parent or an unfit parent. And so they, even if they want kids, they've decided not to have kids, which I really, really super respect. And so I think now that also qualifies as child-free, even if they want them. But it's still, I'm gatekeeping because I'm using words like qualify.
I never thought about that actually, as to the reason why they are child-free, and that means something other than being child-free. I just learned something. I like this show. I never thought about that before. Mine is definitely more being child-free just means you don't want kids and that you don't have kids of any kind. And I've said this before, because in one of our very first episodes we ever did, which is on YouTube, I was very adamant that being child-free meant you never wanted kids and that you never want kids in the future, just because of experiences where when I was discovering the child-free community, I would be chatting with someone and suddenly I find out, oh, you had stepkids, or oh, you have tried to have a kid and then it didn't work out, so now you're child-free, things like that, where to me, I apply it to my own personal experience, meaning I did not ever want to be a mom. So that meant if someone else was using the term child-free, they also never wanted to be a parent at any point. And I'm evolving in my thought there, but I still do feel when I hear child-free, my brain goes to did not ever want to have kids. Now there's the never wanting to have kids, but not realizing it was a choice and just assuming you're going to have anything. That still qualifies as child-free in my mind. It's just not ever having the desire to have kids now or in the future, because some people are child-free for the present moment, but are open to something else later on.
Okay, that's interesting. I think, what I've seen, especially on like Facebook groups a lot, is whenever somebody says, oh yeah, my partner's children or my husband's children, or, they just kind of like, they get completely attacked sometimes by a lot of people who are like, if you have stepchildren or stepchild, you're not child-free, right? And then it has gotten to the point where the moderators have had to say things like, okay, like everyone who like sees themselves as child-free, whatever that definition is welcome here. Because I think that it does vary from people. I mean, there's people who think if you have a stepchild, it doesn't matter how old they are, you're not child-free, right? Some people say, well, if you have stepchildren, but they're like old, they're out of the house, you didn't raise them, like Kamala Harris, then maybe you are child-free, right? Because they're not yours. You're like the cool aunt in a way.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like, I feel that everyone has like their own definition. What I find a little bit jarring sometimes is how they can attack other people for like having a different view on that or a different definition. Like that makes me I mean, I don't think necessarily that the whole community has to agree on one specific definition, but if you feel that you're child free, doesn't that like count for everything?
You meaning you're not involved with someone's children on a regular basis? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, but I mean, if you call yourself child free, you haven't birthed a child, but if you're a foster parent or you're a step parent and you still call yourself child free because you haven't actually like birthed a kid,
Oh,
is
see,
that something that you guys go ahead?
to me, that's not child free. Then it's like foster parent thing. You're responsible. You're legally responsible for the care of a child. To me, that's not living child free. I'm not saying I would get mad at somebody for using that term, but I don't equate that to being child free. If you are responsible for the care on a regular basis, like if my nephews stay with me for a weekend, okay, I'm not technically not child free for that weekend, but I am child free, if you know what I mean. Like I'm being an aunt, but foster, if we're talking foster and step parent to the point where they have the children in their house on a regular basis and are making decisions for that child and are financially supporting that child or involved in financially supporting that child on a regular basis, like to me, that I don't think of that as being child free, because they are responsible for the care of a child to a greater extent than an aunt or a grandparent or an uncle or a friend.
But people do get really excited about, and excited, I don't mean yay. I mean, they have excitation feelings about the use of the word child free or childless. We have a couple of comments in chat. Adding by choice to child free, it clarifies the status. That used to always bother me because I assumed child free meant by choice, otherwise it was childless. So child free by choice has always felt redundant to me, but now with the various, with the people we've had, we had someone on, we had Jackie Shannon Hollis on it. She's an author who was someone who now is child free, who tried at one point or wanted at one point to have kids. And then you have the people who wanted kids and then they've come to accept the fact that they don't have them. And so then they have tried to embrace child free versus childless. And another comment in here is that I feel like I regard child free as having a good attitude about it and childless as having a more resentful one. And a question that maybe the resentment stems from more emotional response or grief for being childless. And I think I completely agree with that. Childless to me, no matter what, says I want and I don't have. And I'm still very upset about it. And then there's another comment by someone who organized a child-free event in her city in Australia last weekend and welcomed both child-free and childless people, but had to set firm boundaries, which I think is kind of funny, on not permitting discussions on infertility or hatred of kids at the event. And it's really interesting that that's necessary, but it is because of how pissy people can get one way or the other.
That's true. I think another like part of that whole child-free gatekeeping, and it's also like child-free policing, is how if you don't hate kids in some of these spaces, which I feel are very toxic, to be honest, if you don't hate kids, then you're not child-free. And that to me makes absolutely no sense, right?
Well, then I'm
like,
not
what
child-free.
do you mean? Like, I don't
So you're a breeder pleaser. Don't forget about the whole breeder pleaser.
So you're a breeder pleaser. Oh my God, yes, I hate that term. You're a breeder pleaser if you like kids and if you like still want to like make parents feel okay for making their choice, right? It is all about choice in the end. But if you're that kind of person, then some people might call you a breeder pleaser or any other of these really fancy names that they have made up in the last few years. I just feel that people who are very strict with like what it means to be child-free, right? Under their own, this is what they think, but they also want to impose it into other people. And then if you don't fit with that, you're not child-free. I feel these people in general are a little bit angry somehow. That's my like personal take on it. I don't know what you guys think.
I think in the world of just socializing, it can be it can be easier to be welcoming, I guess, and accepting of whatever child-free means to the person who says it. But if you're a content creator who's establishing a business or a service based on being child-free, which both of you two do, you must both have ways of trying to identify what kind of child-free people you're either targeting or providing services to. So like Lenore and or Isabella, whoever wants to go first. Lenore, you have your child-free journals, you have the child-free meditation videos. Isabella, you have the Honest Uproar, Uprising Spark, which is providing coaching services and things like that to women who are trying to become comfortable with their role in the world as child-free people. So how do you two identify either who you're targeting or who is someone who's going to need your service or benefit from your service?
Well, first, I started The Bitchy Bookkeeper was just a blog like a few years ago. And I was just offering my point of view as a child free by choice woman, and I was just sharing my experiences. So later on, when I decided it was going to become a brand because I met you two, and then I was getting all these ideas, and learning more about the child free community, I realized that it was important for me to iterate that I was coming from the perspective of never wanting to have kids. And that was my primary audience, was other child-free men and women who at no point did they want to have kids. This was, again, before realizing that there was more of nuanced situations. But now, as I see different content creators kind of catering to both, or the broader sense of the terms child-free and childless, I realize that I am really not pushing the child free by choice agenda, but I am showcasing the child free by choice point of view. So when I'm collaborating or potentially going to collaborate with somebody, I need to vet them. I need to ask them, are you child free by choice? What is your backstory? Because a lot of times I've discovered that people are identifying as child free by choice when in fact, at some point they went through infertility treatments, IVF, trying to, they made a decision to try to have a child and it didn't work out for them, or they are legally responsible for their spouse's children. And it's not that that means that I won't work with them or collaborate with them for the Bitchy Bookkeeper. It just means that I have to find a project where we understand one another, because I don't know what it's like to have any point wanted to have a child. And so the content is going to be different if we come from that perspective. And I won't be able to offer too much on that insight. So I do have to vet people. And I get people or mothers emailing me saying, hey, I have this idea for how to be child free for 3 hours. Can I put a post on your blog? I've had that so many times, and I have to respond going, okay, child free means my audience has never wanted to have kids. I'm sorry, they're not going to find your blog post interesting, but thank you for your inquiry. So there is a vetting process that I have to do, which means I have to gatekeep from my own lifestyle brand, because and I've had infertility, people who have gone through infertility right for it, but it's been stated where they fit in on the spectrum. Like, it's clear that, okay, this is someone who is child free after infertility. So those statements are made. And for me, that is important with the Bitchy Bookkeeper brand, because it is geared towards child free by choice people, meaning you have never at any point wanted to have a kid. So that's, and that I only apply to my own brand. If somebody else wants to do a different viewpoint of being child free, that's fine. And I'm not going to impose, like what Isabel said earlier, I'm not going to impose my standard for my own brand on somebody else if it doesn't involve my brand, if that makes sense.
It does. Christina made a really good comment. I hadn't actually thought about the terminology of gatekeeping, and she says that gatekeeper by definition is someone who is ensuring that everyone beyond the gate is safe, and only those who meet certain rules that ensure that everyone are safe are the ones who are actually let in. So the original intention might have been to protect the community, and that's why people can get bitter about, other people, or like people from the same community who are like completely trying new things or changing the meanings that we had in mind at the beginning. I don't know. Our community is quite recent, though. I mean, as child-free people, the term child-free, I think, was started to be used back in the 1970s, if I'm not mistaken, something like that. So before that, it was like people that had no kids. There was another word, non-parents. That's what they called them, non-parents, before they started calling us child-free. But there's like child-free by choice, child-free by circumstance. There's childless by circumstance, but there are also people who use the word childless by choice.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's also the parents who hashtag child-free the weekend that they leave the kid with their grandparents or whatever, and then go. This happened to me recently. I I saw this picture of three like beautiful ladies like just in the beach having fun, and the hashtag was like child free weekend or something, or child free something, and I was like, yes, we need to normalize this. This is so cool. And they were like, you know, the three of us were mothers. We just left our kids behind with their parents. And I was like, right. Okay. That's not what that means in my community, but you know, rock and roll. Oh, more power to you. But yeah. And I don't know, to answer your question, Kristen, I honestly, I just think the people who are my part of my audience and people who reach out to me for whatever reason, it might be to say, hey, thanks for whatever you're putting up. This content is very helpful, or hey, I want to work with you. They usually vibe with what I put out there. So I don't really have like this sort of ruler in a way. Like I even get comments from moms saying, I really like what you do. I want to have my kids understand and know this. That's why I know, Lenora, this happens to you too. Getting comments from moms saying, you know, this is great. I want my kid to know that it is a choice, right? So it's not that simple.
But you also interview people for the Honest Uproar who are child free.
I only interview child-free people. Yeah, I only.
So those people have to be child free happily. On like for the Honest Uproar, for the podcast, they need to be never wanted children, never gonna happen.
No, that's not.
No?
But no, I mean, child-free people. I've interviewed people who wanted to have children. I interviewed people who went through 5 rounds of IVF, and at the end they were like, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore. And then they embrace the child-free lifestyle. I've interviewed people, I don't know, I mean, that are, for me, are people who are child-free now, right? The moment I interview them, they say, I really want to have kids, whatever their past is, that doesn't matter. And I think that's actually what makes the conversation also so rich, because not everyone who's child-free has never, ever wanted to be a parent. Like Lenora, like you've never wanted to be a mom. You've never thought about kids. Kristen, I think it's also your case. I thought I was going to be a mom at some point. And then I was like, what was I thinking? Right. And I think child-free people just come in so many flavors and colors and, you know, backgrounds and stories. And that's exactly what I wanted to like portray in my podcast.
All right. So you're pretty lenient. You're not a good gatekeeper. You're nothing like Zuli.
Even though, I was gonna say we should plug. If you guys, did you guys see our Halloween episode? This last Halloween with Isabel was the gatekeeper for the child-free community. That was freaking hilarious.
I was the crazy gatekeeper for the child-free community. That's what it was.
If you haven't seen it, go see it. If you want to laugh your ass off, it's just hilarious. And yeah. I love our Halloween episodes.
You know, I do still want to. This is something Lenora disagreed with on an earlier episode we had.
I don't disagree with nothing.
Oh, yes, you did. With the idea of, I think we should acknowledge the child-free people who have children, and I know that is a ridiculous and oxymoronic sounding concept, but let's say, for example, and I'm going to do a little teeny plug here, like my character, Catherine, in The Age of the Child. Let's say I never wanted children, never planned to have them. But then let's say birth control laws change and there's no birth control, there's no abortion. I get pregnant. There's nothing I can do about it. Still don't want to be a mother, even though I'm pregnant and I can't be unpregnant. And then I have the child. And because I'm not an asshole, I'm going to take care of it and I'm going to do a good job. But I don't want to. And I'm still very in the child-free, don't want to do this mindset, but I have this kid. I think there are a lot of people out there like that because of all the people who have no idea that having kids is a choice, and because of all the people who get pressured into it or just simply don't think, it doesn't occur to them. And then here they are feeling like this life they're living is not the life they signed up for, not the life they wanted, but there they are. And I just want to say to you people, I know you're there. I feel deeply for you. I'm sure you love your kids. I'm sure if you could go back and do it again, you wouldn't. It's not a reflection on them, but I just want you to know I care about you and I love you.
I'll second that. Again, this is part of being human and growth. And we've said on the show too that you don't have to be a parent to learn how to express empathy or to be empathetic, because I have said always that I'm not the most empathetic person in the room. But the more I have talked about being child-free, sharing my own story and doing this podcast and speaking with other child-free people, wherever they are on the spectrum, the more I've come to understand the different nuances on people's lives. And so I can understand the child-free in spirit. And I applaud that and encourage that, because again, those are the parents that are going to be teaching their children that being child-free is a valid option. And that is super important. I guess I could be accused of being a breeder pleaser because I'm all about child-free and parent allyship. That is so important, because how else are children going to know that being child-free is an option, right?
Totally. I'm reading the comments. Somebody just mentioned, being child-free, but with children by circumstance. And I think that's just, it does kind of like describe what we were talking about. But because there are situations in which a child literally falls on your lap, right? Like,
oh God, is my ceiling fixed? I do not want that to happen.
But Christina, for example, said something about an acquaintance who had to take in some children because their parents died. And I think I mentioned this in one of our past episodes, that if my sister were to have children and then for whatever reason, her and baby daddy passed, I would take that child in. That would be like the only way that I would like take a kid in, because I love her, right? It wouldn't be about me anymore. It would be about her and my niece, nephew, or whatever. But those are very extreme cases though. And when that happens, that kind of like, it just kind of like falls off the sky. But I know that there's a page, and if you guys haven't checked it out on Facebook, and it's about, it's regretful parents, and they all send in their stories anonymously, and you get to see how people who have gotten into situations in which they have decided to give birth to these children or to adopt a child or whatever, even though they didn't want to, how that has impacted their lives. And I think that the reason I'm there is not to like say, haha, it's not to feel good about my choice because somebody else is having a hard time. It's more about seeing how that community has actually grown as well. Or, parents who regret it and they're like supporting each other, and that also makes me want to normalize even more the fact that people understand that not having children is a valid choice.
That's great. I just want to mention there's a comment about someone, this is JN. Sure would be nice to have children's books on the acceptance and understanding of child-free / different lifestyles. Oh my God, absolutely. I'm going to get on that when we're done.
Why do
Kristen.
I think there was one? I want to look into that, because I thought I remembered a conversation, whether on TV or somewhere, about somebody writing something like that for kids, or maybe they just wanted to. I don't know.
One's not enough. Really.
Oh, that's true. Obviously.
There needs to be more than just
one. You got your book, kid. Yeah.
It's like anyway. Okay, we got 4 minutes.
Oh, I was just going to say about the regretful parents. I think it's so great that there is a place they can go, because there was that woman in the UK several years ago, who wrote a piece for The Guardian, I think, about about how she wished she had never had kids. She had a daughter and a son. She had the first child because she felt pressured by her husband, and then she had a second one because she didn't believe in having an only child. She wanted to do the best she could for her kid. She did the best she could for them their whole lives. They're very well taken care of, and she loves them, and they know she loves them. But they also know that if she could have gone back and not done it, she wouldn't have. And she got so many mean comments to this article, as of course she would. But, you know, calling her selfish and saying she was cruel to let her kids know this. And, you know, how would you feel if you knew your parents never wanted you? But I just thought it was incredibly brave of her. And I think she and her kids must have a good enough relationship that they understand where she's coming from. And they know what she's saying. And now that there are more of these places where these parents can go, they need people more than anybody, you know, because mothers, whatever, nobody really judges them except for whether they have a drink on a play date or something. But if you regret having kids, man, you are toast. So for them to have each other is just critical.
Yeah, I think that's one of the hardest places that anyone can be, to be honest, because you can't get rid of a child. I mean, unless you put it up for adoption, right? But
you can drop it off in some places at a firehouse or something until they're 17. You can just dump them somewhere legally.
I'm surprised there are not more teenagers being dropped off at the fire station.
Yeah, my dad was tempted.
I was gonna say my parents dropped me off at anger management therapy when I was 15.
It seems like it worked.
It did. The therapist sided with me and told my parents they had to ease up on their religious restrictions and I was allowed to go to movies. So it worked. I highly recommend therapy as a teenager.
Oh my God. Right. So we got a question from Juan. What do you think is the line between gatekeeping and a boundary?
Ooh. That's a really, I think
go ahead.
both of us can't think. What do you, from my perspective, when it comes to business and content creation, as I said earlier with the brand, I'm going to say that's a boundary because that is, I am in control of what content I want to create and collaborating with other people. I am well within, my right to have guidelines and boundaries as to what kind of content I will accept. It's just, I always say, I don't want anyone who's bashing parents and children. That's another boundary I have when collaborating with other child-free people in whatever form, is that I don't want to be associated with hate speech towards parents and kids. So for me, that's a boundary. And I think within the parameters of content creation and protecting your own, your reputation and if you're making a name for yourself, that's more of a boundary than gatekeeping, in my opinion.
Kristen?
I think gatekeeping is too much like whatever the law is, like zero tolerance. Gatekeeping is to me a very zero tolerance thing, and you're very rigid about it and unwilling to be swayed by different people's circumstances and the complexities of life and just the nature of being a human being. Whereas boundaries, I agree with what Lenora said, you have certain things you personally just don't want to engage with or accept. And I'm with her completely when it comes to people who use terms like breeders or crotch food or my own favorite, womb weasel. I made that up. So
love womb
that was for
weasel.
Halloween though. That was for our Halloween episode. So yeah, I think that's the difference. I think boundaries are just, very personal things, and gatekeeping is like a social sort of, you're cool, you're not cool, and I get to decide which is which.
Yep. Well, I agree with both of you, actually. So it's time to start wrapping up our episodes. So before we go, is Kristen or Lenora, do you want to add anything else to the conversation?
Oh, loads, but you know me, we got to keep it on time. But no, I'm good.
Right. Well, this was really cool. This was our second live episode ever. And it's been so much fun to be here with everyone who is with us in the Zoom call, is it?
Yeah.
Today. And of course, if you're watching this episode after, Thank you so much for watching. This was all for today. If you have any questions, any comments, anything you want to say, ask, or whatever, you can leave your comments in the description of this episode, or you can send us an email to childfreegirls@gmail.com.
Of course, we are all over social media. We are at Childfree Girls on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, occasionally Pinterest, and once or twice on TikTok. And our website is childfreegirls.com. And of course, we are on Amazon. The book behind me there, Childfree Girls, Comfort Food for Thought, is available in paperback and on Kindle.
And question, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, and our question for you, I'm interested in knowing this because Isabel said that she doesn't like it when people say they're child-free for the weekend if they have kids because the kids are off doing something. However, when I was taking my dog to doggy daycare, I would say I am dog-free for the day, so I completely understand them. So my question to you, is it okay to say, as a parent, I am child-free this week because my kids are at summer camp or elsewhere and not being a distraction to me in my life? Is that okay? Answer down there or in an email or wherever you want.
Thank you for watching.
Thank you for
Thanks,
watching. Thank you all
guys.
for being
Thank
here.
you guys
Bells.
for being here
Thank
Yes,
today.
thank you.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye. No, you say bye.
No, you say bye.
Oh my God, I'm leaving.
You leave first.
I'm going.
Bye.
Bye.